is that we in the FBI have a lot of knowledge, and we know what's going on out there. We're seeing the crimes. And so Director Wray has been very open about the FBI getting out more and engaging in the public and talking about cybercrime, because whether we like it or not, this isn't going to go away. Cybercrime is growing at an exponential rate out there. It used to be we talk about from a national security standpoint, we talk about Russia, China, and India, or Iran. Right now, though, cybercrime, there's over 200 cybercrime groups targeting the United States, and they're targeting you. And whether you like it or not, because of the wealth disparity in the United States, that's going to continue to increase. We're seeing crime groups coming out of places like Nigeria, India, Pakistan, Vietnam. The drug cartels in Mexico are getting involved in it because it's lucrative. And I'll show you how lucrative it really is. Cybercrime is going to continue to target you, not just because of that, but also, whether we like it or not, one of the largest groups that's being targeted are elderly and immigrants in the United States. Because elderly, you may trust too much. And I've said this before, and I'm not trying to be disparaging at all, but you may be 80 years old, 70 years old, but on the internet you're an infant. These people out there are living in this world, and they know more about the internet than you have any ideas about. And so we have to start understanding that that's the reason you're being victimized. All right. So I'm going to talk about it as we go through. I'm going to give you some statistics. I'm going to scare you a little bit, but my goal is to change behavior. That's the reason I'm out here talking, is I need each and every one of you to start looking at how you behave online and saying, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this, and let's make some changes. I had a conversation yesterday. My nephew is an aide to a senator, and I was at a wedding in St. Louis, and he and I had a long talk. And we don't even know how far cybercrime is going. Congress has no clue how bad it is. So only 10% of cybercrime is even being reported to the FBI. And the reason is that it hits somebody, hits a small company, hits an individual. They may not even know how to report it. Because if you report it to local law enforcement, in many cases, local law enforcement has no idea what to do with it. And that's becoming more and more common. So we have to start, my push is number one, I'm asking Congress to do a study as to how deep this problem really is to the public. Because my belief is that we are underreporting it, and we need to know more about how deeply it's affecting this economy. My belief, and the belief of most cybersecurity experts, is that cybercrime is the greatest threat to the U.S. economy in the next decade. Yes. If we don't get a handle on this, we are going to get robbed blind. And we're already seeing it with intellectual property by the Chinese. But what we're also starting to see is that we're seeing other developing economies looking at the Chinese model and saying, it's working. Whether you like it or not, the Chinese stealing intellectual property is working to advance their economy to a level very close to where we are in the United States. And so economies like Brazil, economies like Cuba, economies like India are looking at it and saying, if it works for them, it might work for us. So we have to start locking the doors. We need to start looking at how we as individuals can say, I don't want my data out there. So the other thing Congress is looking at is we need more public awareness. That's why the FBI is engaging more in public awareness. But I've asked Congress and I've asked the director of the FBI, we need PSAs. We need to do more public service announcements. We need to get out there. We need to say, this is what happens. Here's a scam. This is a scam. Who do you report it to? You report it to the Internet Crime Complaint Center run by the FBI. And this is what you're going to get back. So we need that. And then the other thing is that we need privacy laws to come into place. In the United States, we're not protecting the privacy data of the individual. And that has to change. But part of that change is we have to change how we view data. We need to change how we view what should be private. So for example, you can go out right now, and I encourage every person to do this. Do a background check on yourself. Go out to backgroundchecks.org, run your phone number or your email address, and you'll be surprised what you can find out about yourself. I can find out where you live, how much you paid for the house, who lives in the house, where you lived before that, who lives in your neighbor's house. It's all out there in public record, because the way we report that information is not protecting the homeowner. It's being done, and my girlfriend's a real estate agent. It's being done in the way right now so that real estate agents know how to list a house for the future. But they don't need to know who lives in the house to post a real estate. So we've got to start thinking about this and pushing back and changing behaviors. So that's my goal here. I don't have to hit you too much on this. The headlines are killing us. The headlines are over and over again, and things like Marriott and things like Equifax, the loss of 150 million records from a company like Marriott or Equifax. It's unacceptable for companies to not suffer any repercussions, but there's no federal law for us to go after them. There is no way for me to go after anybody at Marriott because they didn't break the law, they were just stupid. And I can't fix stupid, all right? And so what we have to start doing is we also have to vote with our feet and with our money. Marriott, what was the first thing Marriott did following the breach? What was the most important thing? Rebranding and coming out with Bonvoy. That was what was important. And if you notice, they've crushed us with Bonvoy commercials because they pushed Starwood off and said, oops, Starwood is broken, and moved on to Bonvoy. We have a responsibility. If a company's not going to protect my data, do I give them more data? No, we shouldn't be doing that, but we are not thinking that way because we're like, well, I like Marriott. Okay, you like Marriott, good, be my guest. But do you think they're going to have another breach? If they don't fix their stuff, there will be another breach at Marriott. And then 5 years down the road, you're going to be going, oh, I guess they didn't fix any of their problems. And you're going to be going through the same problem again. Less than half of the companies globally are prepared for a cyber attack. Most companies are actually sticking their head in the ground and saying, I hope it doesn't happen to me. And that's a really bad behavior. And so I'm out there talking to these companies and saying, you've got to take it seriously. We have to start looking at it and saying, how are we going to be prepared? What's really scary is that 80% of the executives think that they're great. And only 20% of the IT people think they're good or fair. There's a big disparity, and this is part of our challenge as well. I talked about privacy laws. There's a law that was passed last year in Europe called GDPR. Now, a lot of people, a lot of Americans think, why do I care about the European Union and their laws? Well, two reasons. One, their law says that if you lose the data of any European citizen, you can be held accountable up to 6% of your profits, including if you're an American company. So almost immediately when that law was passed, they went after Facebook and Google, and they are fighting Facebook and Google for $8.8 billion in fines right now. They just fined British Airways $150 million, and we think Marriott will get hit with another $150 million. And they can come after any company doing business in Europe. So, all right, big deal. I don't do business in Europe. Right now, there are laws being passed by the states in the United States that are mirroring some aspects of that privacy law. The most restrictive is one called the California Consumer Privacy Act. And the California Consumer Privacy Act says if you lose the data of a California citizen in a breach, the Attorney General of California can hold you accountable up to 6% of your gross profits. We do start seeing now you have customers that are Californians, and they went after Delta Airlines very quickly after the passage of one of those laws. All right? So that's the future. Texas has a privacy law, my understanding. It won't pass anytime soon. And there's some privacy laws being considered in the federal Congress as well. We have to change behavior, and my push is that I don't want to see 50 state laws because there will be 50 different laws on how privacy is handled. We've got to get to a federal minimum standard for privacy. All right, that's the push. All right, so that's my encouragement there. Cybercrime is so lucrative that if I could take every cyber criminal right now and put them in one country, it would be the 13th largest economy in the world. $1.5 trillion in 2019 from cybercrime. That number will reach $6 trillion by 2021. They're making bank on you. This is stolen income. This is income stolen from individuals. This is income stolen from companies. Right now, there is ransomware running rampant through East Texas. Why? What happened 2 weeks ago in East Texas? 3 weeks ago. Imelda. And the ransomeers are realizing that they have a better opportunity to get money back if they hit a company that's already in financial straits because of a natural disaster. They're going to try to victimize you based upon that. We saw it following Harvey. All the scammers came out looking for ways. There were people saying, oh yeah, I can re-roof your house, give me $1,000, and they run off with it. These are just variations on the same scam. They're just trying to come to you through a computer, through a text message, through anything else in email. We can't fall for it. We have to learn to not trust a little more. And that's my encouragement to you. You know, I think it was Reagan said, trust but verify. And that's got to be the mantra of what we look at relationships, no matter how they might be for. Cyber breach costs are going up. It's going to become more and more expensive. If you suffer a cyber breach, just recently, who was it? Somebody just suffered a cyber breach. They took a 4% hit on their stock value. Oh, it was, I can't remember. Anyways, but DoorDash got hit. DoorDash lost all the data, and they suffered a loss of their stock price. Pitney Bowes, that was the one that got hit. Pitney Bowes got hit. Their stock price dropped 4% when they announced their breach. That's what's happening. So, to get your data back, 3 hospitals in Alabama got hit. And they paid the ransom because they lost access to all patient records. That's the goal of the bad guy. The goal of the bad guy is to find out what is so important to you that you'll pay me to get it back. Not what I can steal from you. That's not the mindset. It's what is so important to you that you'll pay me to get it back. And that's a slight nuance, but it's important to understand. All right? This is where we're going. Number 1, social attacks. We can't fall for it. You can't trust email, period. All right? This is what I'm telling you. Email currently is not reliable in any way, shape, or form. If you get an email, I don't care who they say they are, you don't trust it. And if you think it's somebody sending you something, you call them, you text them, and you say, hey, did you send this to me? We have to validate the information that we're getting, especially in a business situation. You can't transfer money based upon an email, period. Don't. And I'll talk a little bit later about online relationships and what the hell that means. We got to start looking at email as untrustworthy. What's happening right now in real estate? Real estate, title companies want to get their documents e-signed. So how do they do it? They send an email with a username, password, and a link to the e-signed document. The bad guy is reading those emails. Half of you have somebody reading your emails you don't want reading them. So the bad guy reads this email. The customer says, hey, I've signed the documents. They log into the original document, change the routing number and the account number, and the down payment is routed to another bank account. I know of 4 down payments in the Houston area, over $100,000, that were lost because of that. And guess when they found out? At closing. At closing, they went in and the title company said, we never got your down payment. Well, I left my bank account. And now it's a lawsuit. All 4 of those will descend into lawsuits because nobody wants to claim responsibility. We need to think about it. I mean, I used to tell my son, when you're surfing on the internet, pretend your grandmother is looking over your shoulder whenever you're looking at whatever. When you're writing an email, you need to think there's a criminal looking over your shoulder when you're writing it. Is it something I should be sending out that I want a bad guy to read? We've got to start looking at it that way. That's the reality. And this phishing can come to you through email. It can come through a text message. It can come through a phone call. It can come through a mail. It's all it is somebody throwing something out there and hoping you're going to take action on it. Don't. So here's one of the common phone scams. Oh, Grandma, this is John. I'm in the hospital. Or a nurse calls, says your grandson has been in a car accident. How are you going to handle that? Oh my gosh. You start freaking. Emotional response. Put away the emotional response. Get a piece of paper out. I don't care who it is. Get out a piece of paper and say, who are you? Write it down. Where are you calling me from? Write it down. What's your phone number? You're not going to use it, but you're going to take their phone number and you're going to say, I'll call you back. 95% of the scams, when you try to hang up with them, they will not let you hang up. They have to keep you on that line because they know the odds of you calling back decline sharply. And some will get aggressive. We're going to come and arrest you if you don't pay this bill right now. Oh yeah. My sister-in-law fell into that one in Pasadena. They said she had owed money to a credit agency because she didn't pay a payday loan. She paid it. $700. I was like, no, $700. She was like, oh, I guess it's just lost. $700 is important money. And if you're looking at somebody in Nigeria and they got $1,000 off me, I just paid their family for a year. That's why they're hitting us. because we don't care if we lose $50, $100, $700. I had one lady get into a scam. She paid $3,000 for the Nigerian prince scam. Got another email back that said, oh, you need $2,000 more. She made 5 transactions for $17,000 before she went, I guess I'm not getting any money.
Oh, really?
Whether you like it or not, and if you've fallen for the Nigerian prince scam, I'm sorry, but that's been going on for 15 years. It's greed. The motivation for the Nigerian prince scam is, I will give you $100,000 if you give me 3. And people fall for it. Don't let greed drive you online. Don't let curiosity drive you online. These are bad things, and the bad guys are playing you. They're playing you, and they're very good at it. They will make you believe that everything's going to happen badly if you don't do what they want you to do. Slow it down. Slow it down. What I used to say is it's like, and I hope nobody used to be one of these salesmen. It was like when the vacuum salesman would come to my house and try to sell me the Kirby. And they would come in and they would give me this hardcore sale, and they'd vacuum my floor, but they wouldn't leave. I couldn't get them out of my house, and and you're like, why are we going so aggressive for an $1,800 vacuum cleaner? But that was the pushiness of it. It's the same thing. They're going to try to jam this down your throat and tell you that the world's going to end if it doesn't. Guess what? The world's not going to end. And I'll talk about some other scams a little later. The supply chain is an attack right now. When I talk about supply chain, here's what you need to understand. The supply chain is any company that works for another company. Right now, oil and gas. Companies like Chevron are putting $800 million into cybersecurity a year. Can I hit that? Probably not. But I can hit that construction company that's doing projects for them, and that construction company has no security. Or for medical, I'm not going to hit Memorial Hermann that's doing $600 million of cybersecurity. I'm going to hit your primary care doctor down the street who has nobody doing their IT. That's the attack surface. 75% of people being hit by cybercrime are small and medium businesses in America. That is the core of the U.S. economy. And that's the hope of them, is that these people don't have somebody who does security, and they're going to just pay to get the data back. And here's how it works. I go out on the dark web, I can buy 100,000 email addresses for $100. They're valid email addresses because every one of you clicked on a link sometime across the way. When you click on a link like an unsubscribe for something you never subscribed to, you just told somebody there's a human operating that email. You just validated it. And then I can go out and rent ransomware. And what ransomware will do is when it hits your computer, it'll overwrite all of your data and encrypt it. And you won't be able to access it unless you pay me money to get it back. So now I go out, I can send 100,000 email addresses, this ransomware, 5,000 people will click on it. Of those 5,000 people, 1,000 of you will pay me $400 to get your data back. I just made $400,000 on a $100 investment. That's how easy it is. We've got to stop. We've got to be aware of this. So passwords. This is the other thing we have to change. We have to be smarter about passwords. 40% of us individuals and companies have an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document on their desktop called passwords, storing passwords. Guess what I do as a hacker? I'm looking for that one. Maybe I can get lucky. We can't do that. We got to protect that data. The problem also, though, is we think we're being complex when we add numbers and special characters. But all of our passwords follow the same pattern. We pick a 4 or a 5 character word, $sign or number sign, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or the year. Now, the most common passwords are, I don't have it on this list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, followed by password. The next group of passwords is kids' names, pets' names, dates. Now, my joke is that women use anniversaries and men use divorce dates. Okay? Those are public record. All of your dates are public record, folks. If you're not using a date that's somehow specific to you, I know your birth date. I know your anniversary date. I can find that out. It's all on the record somewhere. Your wedding license is part of public record now. I can go on Ancestry.com on any one of you and find out all of that information, and your kids' names even sometimes. We've got to change how we use passwords. So the first thing I talk about is password managers. There are a lot of ways to store passwords out there, and they're more secure than what you're doing right now, guaranteed. You can go on a website, a cloud-based one, and you can enter a password in, and all your passwords are stored in their data. And I hear people go, how secure is that?
Yeah.
Well, how much security are you doing? Are you paying for any security? Nope. So you think your spreadsheet's more secure than that? No. You think that using the same password on all of your websites is more secure than using them? The largest company, the largest cloud-based password manager is a company called LastPass. They have not suffered a major breach yet, and they've been around for about 15 years, 12 years, all right? They are putting a lot of money into keeping that data secure. But if that's too much risk, I get it. Download one on your phone. Download one on your laptop. There's apps that you can just download. That's more secure. And it'll, like even Apple now has one built into its operating system that will suggest passwords and store passwords. But do not store your passwords in your web browser. The web browsers are not secure places to store your passwords. All right? So don't store them there. Get one of these apps. Go out on your favorite search engine and say, best password manager apps for your phone, your whatever, and try one. You'll have one password. Even on the Apple, you can use your fingerprint to get into it. Hey, how hard is that? We've got to look at it though. And then let's change our pattern up. 90% of our passwords start with a capital letter. 75% end with numbers. You think the bad guy don't know that? Bad guys, if I'm trying to break your password, I'm going to guess that your first one's a capital letter. That gives me a 1 in 26 chance on the first character. Just change your pattern up. That alone will mess them up for a while. Because here's where we're going now. The Internet of Things. Now, I got a weird sense of humor, if you can imagine. And I was sitting at my chair and I heard, Alexa, burn my house down. Actually, what Alexa said was set up into 350. But in my mind, we're putting too much stuff connecting it into our homes. And we're not thinking about the security of these products. You don't believe me? First of all, both Amazon and Apple have admitted they listen to every conversation around their devices, including the phones. Our phones are listening as well. All right? They have that ability. Siri is listening. So here's what you do. If you have an Amazon device or Siri, I want you to go near it and go, Alexa, turn off. How do you turn Alexa back on? Alexa, turn on. It's always listening, right? It's listening for its turn on. It's always listening. And then I want you to go, hey, I would love to take a trip to Portugal and talk about Portugal for about 5 minutes. And then go turn on a laptop or a computer on that same network, go to Google, wait. Within 5 to 7 minutes, an advertisement will appear on the right side about trips to Portugal. All of these devices are meant to market you. Social media is meant to market you. Don't get upset when Facebook's out there talking about selling your data. They've been doing it since day one. And Zuckerberg does not live under a bridge. They're selling your data to make money. And now your data, for your search data, is marketable. When you do a search from your home computer, Congress, the federal Congress, lifted the restriction on internet providers marketing your searches. They can now look at all of your searches and market you. This is where we are in the reality. Turn things off once in a while. Shut it down. Yeah.
Does DuckDuckGo really work as they say it really works?
It's new. So what I always talk about with new products is, new products are good for the first period of time. I like to see where they are in a year or two before they tell me they can't be broken into. Version 1.0 of software is never broken into because nobody's using it.
Okay.
Right now, Apple tells people that nobody can break into their phones and their laptops. That's a complete lie. The reason is in America, 97% of our computers are Windows. They're just writing the viruses to the highest attack surface. So Apple has a number of vulnerabilities. I see them all the time. It's not any different. So what I want you to think about with Internet of Things.
I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
late, but I guess we're being video.
Yeah, you told me.
Okay, just want to
Yeah,
make
we're
sure
cool.
you knew.
Yeah, we're cool. Yeah, we had a
I
conversation.
didn't hear you
Yeah.
being asked.
Before you put devices on home networks, I want you to ask a question. should I? Not how convenient is this going to be, not how cool is this going to be. I want you to ask a simple question of, should I? And we're not asking that question. We need to think about that going forward. These devices are going to continue to accelerate, but like web cameras. People put web cameras on their home network all the time. They don't think about the fact that 70% of those have a default password and username you don't know. So people can watch your cameras. And if you're going to use a voice device like Alexa or Siri, don't put it in the bedroom. It should not be in a place that you can hear sensitive conversations that you're having. You've got to put it in a public place as far away. I've actually thrown mine out the window. I was using it as an entertainment device. I don't need people listening to me getting mad at things or whatever I do. So we're going to see more cloud testing, right? A lot of people push into the cloud. They think that this is the end-all, be-all of security. We're not there yet. We're seeing a lot of security vulnerabilities. Bad guys are realizing that companies and individuals are pushing their data. If you're going to push your data up to the cloud, pay for it. Security is what you pay for. If you are in a company or an individual and you want to secure your data, the best thing for you to do is pay a little bit. And you'll get a little bit more security with that. When I talk about companies, having a plan, testing it. Home people, same thing. What's your plan if you click on the wrong link on a computer? Have a plan. The plan may be unplug the computer. I know companies that have that plan. Have it. Encrypting data, looking at email, who has access, who needs it. When I talk to companies, the issue right now is how long is it going to take you to find the bad guy? In general, it takes a company 200 days to figure out they've been breached and about 80 to 90 days for them to fix it. That's 6 months, 9 months. That's pretty low. We want to know. My whole point of coming out here is to tell you that we in the FBI want to know what happens. Now, please understand, you may not get a response from the FBI when you say, hey, I lost $10,000. Not trying to be mean about it, but our caseload right now is at the $500,000 mark and up. That's where our losses are at this point. I had a 72-year-old woman come up to me and say, I've lost $125,000 to my 30-year-old boyfriend.
What?
She was in a relationship with a 30-year-old man in Arlington. She was sending him money. Guess what? There's no crime. She gave him the gift. She sent him cash. When I talk about relationships, and I don't think I have a slide here, but I'm going to talk about it real quick. Number one, I don't care if it's a personal relationship or a business relationship and you meet them online. You talk to them on the phone as soon as possible. You don't let it just be an email conversation. Number two, you video chat with them as soon as possible. And you meet them. Right now, how does real estate meet most of its leads? Somebody say the magic word. Internet? Zillow. Yeah. So here's how it works. And my girlfriend was sitting next to me and she got a Zillow lead. And the guy said, hey, I'd like to see this house over off of Cypresswood. She goes, okay, I'll set up an appointment tomorrow at 2. I said, do you know that guy? No. Then why are you meeting him at a strange house before you've met him in person? She's like, what do you mean? You're going to a house you've never been to, in a neighborhood you've never been to, and you don't know if this person is real or a bad guy. She's like, you're right. You need to meet that person in a public place first and meet them and talk to them before you ever go off anywhere else. Even if it's a romantic person you're meeting. You don't meet that person at some dive bar out in wherever, place. You meet them in a place with friends and backup. The last thing, money is never a topic in a solely online relationship, whether it's business or relationships. 1 in 4 people are meeting someone online and they're giving them money. Why? They give you a sob story. Now I'm pretty thick. Sob stories don't cut it with me anymore. But when I was online dating, I have the record for the quickest request for money. I came into a chat room and I said, how are you doing? Not so good. Now, against my better judgment, I asked the question, why? Oh, me and my son just got kicked out of our apartment. Can you help? No. I live in a refrigerator box. I don't care what story you tell them. We can't fall for it. What's amazing to me, we don't have any problem driving by the homeless guy on the corner and not giving him money because we're afraid he's going to go spend it on something, but we'll give money to someone online. How does that mindset work? What rationalizing do we go through? I talked to the Facebook law enforcement. Facebook law enforcement said that any woman on Facebook who has a picture of themselves will receive one unsolicited friend request a week from somebody purporting to be a military member in the desert or in Africa who just wants to make a friend.
They're always widowers.
And they're always widowers,
High-up officers.
single parents. So my ex-wife, she was on Our Time, and she said, "Can you check someone out for me?" Sure. Check this guy out, total ghost. A widower, one child, traveled all over the world, made $1 jillion, but in 2 weeks of meeting her, he was asking her for money.
Right.
I said, "How much money is he asking for?" $16,000.
Gee.
I was like, wow, I never asked you for that kind of money. Want to get back together? No, just kidding. Why do we fall for it? I have an FBI friend, I've known her for 21 years, and she fell for the guy who said, "Oh, I wish I could visit my son." Why are we falling for it? Think about it. What would you fall for? Because the bad guy's going to try to hit you in that. Going to hit you in the sob story or whatever. Don't fall for it. But if you do, we need to know about these people. Because I want to still throw them in jail. I like throwing scam artists in jail. It makes me very happy to watch them get to go try to scam their way out of prison. However, if you get an immediate threat to your life, about 2 months ago, one of my friends got an email or a text message, that picture of him and his girlfriend, and then a picture of 2 dismembered bodies from Juarez, and then a text message that said, "If you don't give me $10,000, I'm going to do this to you and your girlfriend." 11:30 on Saturday, he called me. I get it. He was freaked out. Call us. 1-800-CALL-FBI. If you feel there's an immediate threat or something like that, we want to know right now because we want to address it as fast as possible. And that you call that, and we have a 24/7 hotline in West Virginia. You'll get a person, and they'll take that report. And hopefully somebody will get back to you as soon as possible. If you're still in the business sector, we like to share information. And the FBI does it through a program called InfraGard. So I strongly encourage every company should have a member of their company in InfraGard, INFRAGARD. We have the largest one in the United States, and we are very active here in the Houston area. It's not just oil and gas. We have a retailer group, we have higher education, we have government services, we have a whole bunch of different groups. But we want to be able to talk to you and help you connect with other people in the same business sector, okay? Because it's easier for people to talk in the same business sector, financial sector, than sometimes it is to talk to somebody that may be outside of that. Questions? Yeah.
So, this InfraGard, how would my company, for instance, get a hold of that site?
Go to infragard.org. There's a sign up there.
Okay,
And it's free. Yeah.
Hi. Right. I live in Jersey Village, and I mentioned that to you earlier, and I became very alarmed about over a year ago when I realized that Bobby Warren, one of our councilmen, had my email without my permission, and I became familiar with the GD, what is it?
GDPR?
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't
Yeah.
affect the United States.
Well, I know, it affects, it's because it's going that way in the US. And so I went over to I went up to the FBI building to report Bobby Warren having my email address. And I don't think that I gave the agent enough information for him to look up Bobby Warren. I understand though that later Bobby Warren got a visit from the FBI and wasn't happy with me. And I'll tell you, I have been quite alarmed because my husband, who is an engineer, computer scientist, and I know a whole bunch of this stuff because in my spare time I got 4 college degrees and I've been teaching as a nursing instructor, and I know a lot of those tips. And I don't like social media. I don't get on Facebook.
That's your question.
Well, okay, it's a comment because I want everybody in this room to know that I don't like Alexa And my husband was very sensitive about my getting Alexa out of our area. And the other thing I want everybody to know is right now, I have somebody in the room that got permission from James Morrison to film this. Because I think what we need to do is we need to make sure that everybody we know is aware of all of this kind of stuff. Because the more that we spread this information out, the better off that we're all gonna be. So if you are interested, my website, which was my campaign website, is merrilybeasley.org. And I want to spread the word about whatever it is. I saw Wayne Dolpacino last week, a week ago. So please, we have got to do something to educate everybody around us. Because these kinds of threats are gonna be our undoing.
He's only
Yeah,
gonna be here a
question.
short while, so
I got
maybe
a
the
call
next
today,
question.
someone saying they were involved in Social Security.
Yeah,
Social Security
it's a
will
common one
never-
right now.
They'll never call you.
No, I mean, you're not gonna get a call from the FBI, you're not gonna get a call from Social
IRS.
Security, IRS. We don't do that. If you wanna test it, do the same thing. Get their name, get who they're calling from, and call.
Well,
So-
I called the number back.
Yeah, not their number,
And I
though.
said, you just called me, and the person said,
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that we don't do that, but if you feel the need to validate it, you'll see people get those phone calls from Social Security, whoever, collect the information, and then go look up online the Social Security Administration locally and call them on a different line. Don't believe the number that you're given. It's a very common scam. Yes, sir.
Okay, it runs against my grade, but I've often wondered if there was a cost to every email, would that deter criminals by?
A cost for every email?
Yeah.
No, because a lot of this is coming from outside the United States, and there's no way to collect that. What's happening, though, is kind of interesting is email's dying. So Microsoft has a plan to delete email from its in the future. And so a lot of companies are actually deleting email completely from their model. I think that's where you're going to see it go. Email's going to go away in the next probably 5 to 7 years. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I was just gonna, I love social media, especially Facebook, but and I like meeting people from all over the world, and it's fun. But I have a hard and fast rule. If I accept someone's friendship and they ask me for money, I don't even comment, I just immediately delete.
Right.
And here's one that I know is on my instincts. It was I forgot which country in Africa, but it was a young, nice-looking fella studying for the priesthood. Oh, he had a priest outfit on. And his Facebook photo, real holy, praying.
Yeah.
And he needed money for seminary, and I'm like, delete.
Right. Well, but that's what I'm saying is it's just we have to have that. I like Facebook. I'm on it a lot. I mean, I have a large family, and I keep track of them, and I'm on there, and I'm on LinkedIn. But there's a few things that I'll immediately delete. One, ask me for money. I ain't got none anyways. Number two, and this, I know I'm in a Republican group, too political. I get some people blow up my Facebook. Matter of fact, it happened when we got the shutdown. Some people were very nasty about how we government employees didn't get paid for 3 weeks. Now, I wasn't very pleased, and so I deleted anybody that was throwing out nastiness. We need to sort of think about that a little bit. I think we need to have a little bit more decorum. I think we've lost that touch over time. And a lot of people go on social media and think they're anonymous. There's no anonymity online. So I think you're doing the right thing by deleting them. We need to do that. We really do need to get better about deleting them and maybe even reporting them. Go back to Facebook and say, hey, this guy tried to ask me for money. Facebook might do something.
Right. Sure they will.
I don't know. I have a lot of trust for it, but can't hurt to report them, right? Yes, sir.
We've been getting phone calls from both the FBI.
Phone calls from the FBI.
Phone calls from the FBI and from the Social Security.
Okay.
And I went onto my Social Security account, found out what the number to call, and called them. They said, we will never do anything by phone. You will get something in writing.
We'll never.
IRS said same thing.
Right.
We will never do anything.
That's what I'm saying.
You will have to get something in writing.
That's correct. And if you want, we come out and visit. The FBI will always be willing to come out and do a house visit for whatever if we need to. We don't do any business without offering to come out and show creds and do the whole game. Yes, ma'am.
How are y'all coming on being able to?
Hey, Valerie.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sure everybody's aware that now people can spoof a number and make it look like, just like the person was mad because they hadn't really called you, somebody had made it look like it was their number. How are you coming on being able to catch people that do that?
The problem is we can't. Most of this is coming from outside the United States. Our purview is domestic. The only group that could watch it, nobody wants them watching it, is NSA. They have the visibility into that data coming in. So what we have to do is work. We have two ways we're doing it. One, we're trying to institute technology that allows the robocalling to be blocked. We have to pass a law that says robocalling is illegal. It's not right now in the United States. It's allowed by any company. And there's a lot of domestic companies that use robodialing. The other thing is that we got to engage those other countries in better security and better cyber investigations. It's a huge problem in Nigeria, though. In Nigeria, most of the criminal groups are operating with the express knowledge of that country's government. And that's just the nature of how Nigeria's politics are working right now. So what we try to do is, a lot of times, example, about a month ago, we arrested 283 Nigerians in a business email compromise scam. Most of them were in Nigeria. Nigerian police helped us. So what we're trying to do is we've learned the carrot, stick in the carrot thing like Defense Department, and that if they want training from the FBI on law enforcement, they need to help us out. And that's what we've started to do, is we deploy training teams outside the United States to train law enforcement, but with that, they need to start helping us bust some of these criminal groups. That's where we're starting to get some traction. Yes, sir.
Does the FBI know where Hillary's 30,000 emails are?
They were deleted.
They were
deleted. I mean, the problem is that if you delete emails,
but you can get them back.
no, you cannot. If you do a military grade delete, they're gone.
Anthony Weaver had him, and then Julia Assange had him too.
No, what they had was they had the emails that she had sent or that had been sent through her person to them, which was a very, very small subset of the large number of 30,000. So she asked the IT guy to delete them using military grade deletion. They're gone.
What about Julia Assange? I thought he released them all right before they took him out of the embassy. No?
Julian Assange is, I'm going to say this, he's a little out of his mind. Julian Assange is going to do anything right now to prevent, he's got himself in so much trouble across so many places that he talks a lot, but he hasn't released anything that we've seen that changes the investigation. The investigation is still ongoing. There is still an open case on that. The Inspector General is having us go back and look at what information there is. But the problem is, number one, and I knew this was going to come up, it's not against the law for her to have a private email server. Colin Powell did the same thing, and every Secretary of State has done it over the years. It's not against the law in the State Department to use private email as for government business. They've changed that policy since, but that policy was not in place at the time. And actually, what's kind of interesting is she was actually, whether you like it or not, her private server was more secure than what Colin Powell did, because he actually used his Gmail account. Google was his security when he was using a private email address. But with her running her own private server, she also had the ability to delete that data as she did. Right, wrong, indifferent, we haven't found enough. Here's the issue overall. The mishandling of classified information, if we threw everybody in jail in Washington that mishandled classified information, there would be nobody in Congress. There would not be. There would be nobody, because every congressman, if it's an email that they, or a hot button topic, they'll leak it to the press. And we catch all of them doing it. I don't care, Republican or Democrat, I've served every president since Reagan. If it's politically expedient, a senator or a representative will do that if it serves their purpose. We can't throw them all in jail.
What is your question?
About smart TV. Someone told me your smart TV can spy on you and listen to you. That is true, yeah. Some of them have microphones built into them, so they're listening just like an Alexa or just like a Siri. They are, whether we like it or not. And some actually have a camera built into them. So know what you're buying. Know that, if you're buying it, should you even connect it up to the internet's a question. I mean, like Roku is based upon connecting it up to the internet, but now, if somebody can break into my TV, can they watch me doing things or whatever?
we have to start thinking about the technology we're allowing in, and are we securing the data at our home network? We need to start securing home networks. And so there are companies starting to provide product for securing those home networks. They're just new, and most of them are not US based, which makes people fairly nervous.
What about Mr. Snowden?
So Mr. Snowden, initially I agreed with him. So Mr. Snowden's initial release of data, well, somewhat agreed with him. His initial thing was that the NSA is not authorized to store data on US citizens, period. He was right about that. However, he made no efforts to go the proper channels before he decided to go to the press. That's the mistake. He could have gone to a congressman if he felt like he was going to be, if the FBI was not whatever. He could have come to the FBI. He could have gone a lot of places before he decided to go public. Then what he ended up doing, and this is where he's a traitor in my book, he then turned around and revealed all the investigations that the FBI and the NSA had on Russian and Chinese assets. He had no right to do that because he burned a lot of people and got people killed. So I don't have any right. So I think he was right at the beginning. I agree with him at the beginning, but where he ended up, he was wrong. And so I think sometimes here's the problem. Being an idealist, I've been in the government for 22 years. Idealism is hard when the facts of it all hit you sometimes. He joined. What'd you think you're going to get when you became a contractor for NSA? I won't work for NSA because I don't want to see what they do. You become a contractor for a company or for a government agency that's entirely black in their budget, you're going to see things that you never want to see. And I think he was a little too naive when he walked in the door, and unfortunately he broke his everything that I felt he stood for. And I don't think the Constitution was his main reason to do it. So that's what I serve. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, here. Yeah, thank you.
What about the, well, two things. I want to know if they're going to do away with the email in the next 5 to 7 years, what in the world would replace it?
Instant messaging. So instant messaging, if you like on your phone, you have an app on instant messaging, I can send a message to somebody else, and right now it doesn't deliver it if they're not online. So all you do is on instant messaging, you store a queue function that queues it until they actually log on. That way, when I'm on my phone, I can validate you are who you say you are because you've given me a password and a fingerprint. So now I have two-factor authentication and I validated you. So instant messaging will start to take over. In Europe, we're starting to see Slack, and a lot of companies have started to move to a Slack and gotten rid of email. That's where it's going.
What is Slack?
Slack is an instant messaging app.
Okay.
And it's just an app you install on your phone, and then you send an instant message to groups. Same idea. But it's easier for me to validate you because when you log on with your phone, I can validate you as who you are because of your fingerprint and your password.
Like Signal?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Second question.
Yeah, the other question was, what about the guy who was in IT for in the Hillary's campaign, or for, I guess maybe for the DNC, and they think that he's the one that leaked a bunch of their emails, and then, gee, he mysteriously committed suicide.
Well, that's always, there's been a huge thing. I know there's always been this thing, and I don't know. I haven't seen, and so the problem right now is that we have an issue on the press and overall, is we get, Fox News will say something and I can't validate it. I don't trust any single source of information anymore. That's just the reality of where we are in today's world. It's going to get worse because next year we're starting to see already what they call these fake videos, and the videos, you can't validate them anywhere else. So we have to start, and I don't know where the truth lies anymore in some of those cases. Good, bad, indifferent. I'm getting to the point where if I don't see it, I don't know if I can believe what's being reported to me by any of them. And I'm not trying to be, I listen to them all. I mean, I really do. I validate across all the news agencies, including outside the United States. It's a different story. That's what's amazing to me is that three news agencies. You can see the same story on CNN, Fox News, and Reuters. They're all three in completely different directions. What's true? Don't know anymore. It's a different world, I think, than what we were 20, 30, 40 years ago, where journalism was
respectable.
where Walter Cronkite got on the news and every one of us believed what Walter said when he stood up. Now we just, we got an issue. It's only going to get worse because millennials and Gen Z have a different viewpoint on truth than we grew up with. So it's going to get worse. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer for where that all ended up. There's too many stories. I can't tell the stories anymore. Last question.
Here.
Yeah, so I've got a few things. You and I had a really good discussion before the meeting, and I appreciate the information you provided. And I do have a question, but a comment or two. As we discussed, I'm going through a severe case of somebody got into my computer and operating 24/7, and as a computer professional, I have spent 3 months trying to stop it and failed. But in my investigation, I found training places on how to steal your data. It's very common. Anybody with a junior high education and a computer can do it. The software protection, the security like Norton and McAfee is worthless in my opinion. But at any rate, it's a bigger picture. And I've always wondered, I know, and I've hacked a lot of, or broken down, I should say. If I get a virus over the years, I would literally take the machine apart, trying to figure out what it is. And I think the first time I found my computer was a router for the internet, for the dark web.
Right.
That's why it took 5 minutes to close, shut down. But at any rate, I always wondered, why don't the providers, they have that power to monitor all of the traffic, take care of it. I actually had a Chinese thing that got into my computer, and I tracked it, and then it was on the news. Watch out for this guy.
Yeah, internet providers have no financial incentive to do that at this point.
Well, I'm saying it needs a change.
But that would be a law. That isn't going to happen. In the current legal process, you will not see more regulation come down on the internet. The whole issue of the internet. What was the whole thing about the internet?
Freedom.
Yeah, the freedom of the internet.
Speech.
We can't get. Nobody can agree on that.
Right.
And you have FCC saying that no, it's okay because what you're going to see is the internet providers are going to choke off Netflix. That's really what they want. They want to force Netflix to pay more money to use their bandwidth. That's all they're worried about at this point. There's been no requirement for them to be secure or to watch the security of their individuals. I used to get a list of every computer that was infected in the Houston area. And it was a huge, monstrous list. I get it once a month. 10,000, 12,000 devices in the Houston area. 95% of them were internet addresses owned by the major ISPs. I tried to provide that list to them. They don't want to know. What do we do?
How did you get that list?
So a major company had a sinkhole for viruses. And so what would happen is that this sinkhole would gather, it was like a magnet for malicious software. And when it hit, it would go back and trace the IP address and keep track of where it was getting this bad emails from. There's a problem with that. And I agree, but we have this fight, right, wrong, and different, between security and freedom. I'm not trying to be facetious about it, but a lot of companies are saying, I have the right to determine the data on my network. They don't want the FBI involved. Okay, that's cool. They don't want NSA involved, and they don't want to have to report to the customers that they say it's the customer's responsibility to secure their own data. Now we're seeing some change. You're seeing some companies like Xfinity is providing some security products for home use.
I've gone through them all.
Yeah, no, but you're seeing some change, but until there's really an incentive for them to do it, we have nationwide, we have a horrible cybersecurity policy in the United States.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way from the federal government all the way down to the individual users in the United States. That's what we have to change. We have to change the way we view security, and we have to start looking at it and saying it's my responsibility. And so it has to start with us. Once we start forcing cybersecurity up, we will start buying products that are more secure, and therefore companies will say, okay, well, this product's not selling because it's cheap, but this product's selling because it's more secure. We just have to start forcing that. And in the United States, typically, it's going to be the consumer that forces it.
Right.
Yes, sir.
No,
Yeah, I'm sorry, one more. He kept his hand up back there.
3 times I've had screen come up on my computer, and it says, do not erase this, do not turn off your computer.
Yep.
You're gonna lose all your data, and call this number.
Uh-huh.
So I write the number down, and then I turn off the computer.
Turn off the computer and unplug it.
Right.
But,
It's a defective web page that you're getting, probably. What that one popping up, if you reboot your computer, you come back up and it ain't there again, it's a website you hit that's infected with a virus, not your computer.
Right, but I write the number down so I can call the person up and toss them out.
Okay. That's your right.
I think that with the FBI, it'd be interested in that number because it seems to be illegal to me. I mean, the telephone number is.
If it's a web page, is it illegal for me to put a web page that tells you to call me?
No, it shuts my, it
I know.
tells me that it put this up there so that.
You can report it to the Internet Crime Complaint Center. You can do that, and if there's losses associated with that, people calling that phone number, it will be added to those losses. And that's what we try to do, is we try to say, okay, so some people do call that phone number and they pay money to that company. If they do that, then that's a scam because they're not providing any product in return. So you are not necessarily a victim because you didn't pay any money. But what I say is you are a victim because of your time. And so one thing I've been pushing for is we need to quantify time loss as a monetary loss as well. So just report it to the Internet Crime Complaint Center. All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.